My name is Martin Matter with the Witness to War Foundation. It is March 28, 2014, and we are in Hiawassee, Georgia. I'm sitting with the highly decorated Leon Davenport, Leondavenport, who served in World War II, Korea, and Vietnam in multiple units, including the 24th Infantry Division of the 6th Army. How are you doing today, sir?
Pretty good, thank you.
Glad to hear it. My first question is, where are you from originally?
Blytheville, Georgia. Blytheville.
And could you tell me about your life growing up before you joined the military?
I was one of 3 kids living at the outskirts of Blytheville. Nothing unusual about my childhood that I think is.
And what did your parents do?
My dad was, he was assistant postmaster, and then when the TVA came in to build Notre Dame, he got a job in security. That's the only, all I can remember. My mom just took care of the house and the kids.
Could you tell me how you came to join the Army?
Well, when war was declared, most folks wanted to participate in it. And I couldn't wait to get in.
And did you know anybody else in the Army at the time? Or that joined with you?
I guess I joined with, I think it was 9 other draftees from Union County. Not sure about the number. And I knew probably half of them as schoolmates or fellow citizens of Union County.
So where did they send you for training first?
Camp Landon, Florida.
And do you remember anything about your first boot camp experience?
Well, getting to Camp Landon was a high experience for me. My first train ride. And what did you ask?
If you just remember anything about boot camp that still stands out for you.
Well, it was all new to me, of course. Didn't know how to march or anything like that. It was really basic for me. Pretty strenuous, but not too. And I enjoyed it.
Was anything difficult for you?
Any difficulties I had, the drill sergeants straightened me out. I didn't have any trouble in basic.
So where did you go after you were in Florida?
I believe I left there and was transferred down to Alabama for advanced infantry training. And then I proceeded through the process of shipping out to my unit overseas.
Is there anything about advanced infantry training that you still recall?
It was just a recap of some of our basic training. They stressed marksmanship and marching and getting in good physical shape. That's about all I. Better shape.
And did you go to Fort McPherson at all?
Oh yes. My first stop from the recruiting station was Fort McPherson. And there was just administrative.
Could you tell me about your friend Jack Burns?
Yes. Jack and I were schoolmates, Union County High School. We volunteered for immediate induction together, and pretty soon we were shipped down to Fort McPherson for physicals and administrative and things like that. I don't think of anything exciting happening to me there. Jack and I were both very green recruits. We both lived up in Blairsville, small town, and we were good buddies in high school. And we both felt the urge to enlist as soon as the war broke out. And our things went well for us. We got in the Army, which we wanted. We volunteered for the infantry, and we were sent down to Camp Blanding for several weeks of infantry training. I believe it's maybe 16. Not sure. And then after that, we got to leave to come home for a few days, 10, I think. And then we went back to post in Alabama for advanced infantry training. And from there, we progressed into the pipeline heading to our assignment in Germany. Have I left out anything that'd be?
Well, when you went overseas, you were on a ship, correct?
Yes.
And what ship was that? It's okay if you don't recall. What do you remember about going overseas?
Well, we from Fort Blanding, we departed to a post up north. Can't think of its name.
It's okay.
You remember the name of it, or what?
So you're on your way to Europe, and what happens?
Well, they changed my orders to the Pacific.
About how long were you on the boat before they changed your orders?
No, they changed my orders before I got to Fort Meade, and they sent us up there for final shipment. And they changed our uniforms to tropical from heavy cold duty and give us another physical and put us on the boat somewhere over in Maryland. I can't remember the name of the boat.
Was it the Buckner?
Yeah, yeah.
So were you excited to go to the Pacific, or did you rather go to Europe?
Well, I was just excited to go either place, but I'm glad it turned out to be the Pacific. And what was the name of that ship again? Buckner?
Buckner?
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
So tell me about your trip to the Pacific and what that was like.
Well, we after going through more processing and so forth, we was assigned to a small army post out in California, where we drew cold weather gear and turned in our tropical gear. Some other administrative stuff that shots and more physicals and things like that, most of which I've forgotten the details. Then they put us on the Buckner for shipment to the Pacific. And about About 30 days later, we wound up in the Pacific. The little unit we shipped out from in California was Camp Anza, just a temporary throw-up post that was torn down after the war was over. And we then boarded the ship, and around 31 days, we got to Japan. We got to, Japan, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And what island was Camp Anza on?
I'm sorry?
Camp Anza, where was it located?
It was in Southern California.
Southern California?
Yeah. Out in the desert.
Now, what do you remember about Japan when you got there?
Well, I was wide open, wide-eyed, and that's the furthest travel I'd ever made. And it was all new to me. We didn't see any of the Japanese for a few days. We had some training, I don't know what type of training, something to I can't think of words anymore, but something that would make us, some information that would make us, give us information about Japan and what we faced when we got there. And that lasted a few days, and then they sent us out to our units. And my friend and I, Jack Burns, we both grew the 24th Infantry Division, assigned already in Japan, and we both shipped out after a little administration, training, and taking care of this and that. Just a few days, we stayed in Camp Anza. Then we shipped out to our units of assignment in Japan.
And what do you remember about the 24th Infantry when you got there? How long had they been in Japan?
from early in the war.
And did they tell you anything that you still remember when you got there?
Well, they gave us a lot of lectures on where we were going, the type unit that we were in, and the assignments we might get. And Jack and I both stayed assigned to the 24th Infantry, both to the 21st Infantry of the 24th, and I forget the name of the regiment, 21st Regiment. And we stayed together for several months. We were both assigned as riflemen in infantry platoons.
Now, is there anything else about Japan that you recall?
Well, it was all new to two country boys from North Georgia. Never been out of the state much. And repeat the question.
Just anything else you recall about Japan? You never met a Japanese citizen?
Oh no, I've never been overseas, of course. But
Oh, well, while you were there, did you ever meet one?
a Japanese?
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, we. I guess we stayed in. I don't know what they called it then, but it was a lot of exercises and a little military. Well, I believe we zeroed our rifles and took a little marksmanship training and classes about where we were going, the enemy we were going to meet, and what it'd be like in an infantry company. And then we were assigned to the infantry company, and we both received Company A, 21st Infantry, 24th Division. And I may be repeating myself, but Jack and I stayed together for several months. Went on into Japan with our division.
Tell me about coming back to the States. When did you leave Japan?
Well, after the war was over, it was a few months from the time we got to Japan that we shipped back to the States. Oh, wait a minute. I was in Japan quite a while. And in my 24th Infantry unit, and some training, some combat duty, and we just went down the route that our infantry had been assigned to cover, and we went from Kumamoto, where we would join the division, to another unit at the end of the line when the war was over. And a few weeks after that, we got orders. Jack and I volunteered to stay in Japan. We didn't accept stateside return as soon as we could. We wanted to see the world and see combat and experience this and that. And I stayed in Japan for probably a year, and in the 21st Infantry Regiment. And the war was over, and we went about our peacetime duties. which consisted of training and a little better living. And, it was pretty enjoyable. First time I'd ever seen a foreigner up close, and didn't understand their language, of course. And they gave us a little training in the language, which was helpful a little bit.
So where did you go after that year? Did you go to Korea?
Yes, but I'm trying to put it together. Well, after the war was over, I was reassigned back, remained in assignment to the 21st Infantry Regiment. And stayed there for a year or so in peacetime business, and had a pretty enjoyable year or so with the regiment in Japan. Quite a bit of recreation, new places to see. I'd always wanted to play football, but our little town of Glasgow never had a football team. And I got in on football, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And sometime after that, the memory fades, but the Korean War broke out. And we were the first unit to respond to the Korean thing, that being the 21st Infantry. And after about a year there, I rotated back to the States for leave. That's about all I can remember about my touring Japan and Korea.
Tell me about the Korean War. You earned the Presidential Unit Citation there, is that correct?
Yeah, I think the division got a lot of citations, I think.
Tell me about your role in the Korean War. Where were you stationed in Korea?
I can't remember. We moved around quite a bit, but I'm not sure the order or anything like that. And stayed in combat zone for a year or a little longer, and then got rotated back to the States. After.
Do you remember what unit you were in during the Korean War?
Pardon?
Do you remember what unit you were in?
I was still in the 24th Division, and I got transferred to the 5th RCT, and from there they sent me to the artillery regiment. Yeah, artillery regiment. To see if I could handle infantry, artillery assignment. Being several crew positions on artillery 105 battalions.
Were you also in the 1st Cavalry Division?
Well, much later,
Much later?
and not too long. In fact, I had forgotten it till this came up, and I got my memory replaced. But I was in it in Japan after the
After the Korean War?
I guess after the Korean War ended. And we all scattered out to various units. And I stayed with the 24th Infantry until my tour in Japan was over. Mostly the 1st Cav, I was in the 1st Cavalry Division. I was in it a short time. I think I took some training that would qualify me to be a forward observer, read the terrain, the distances to tentative targets, and zeroing in on them, and just routine work, nothing exciting.
What do you remember about fighting in Korea? Was it more difficult than you expected?
Yeah, very.
What was hard about it?
First, the weather. Coldest I've ever been in my life. And wearing summertime uniform. The old field jackets with the about the slightest Roy's got on. No insulation or nothing like that. Just something like Roy's got on. Cold penetrated it with no problem. We had no bad weather gear until several months on into the war before we got sleeping bags and jungle bags. Not jungle, but Arctic coats. And sleeping bags.
Now, was it all World War II surplus items?
World War II surplus items included our uniforms, not cold weather uniforms at all.
Early on, it was all World War II stuff?
Yeah, like the jackets, like Roy's wearing, plus fatigues, regular boots. It was home up into the extremely cold weather before we got any relief. We got better field jackets, better clothing, better coats, better shoes.
Were your rations all from World War II as well?
What?
Were the rations all from World War II as well?
I'm sorry?
Were the K rations all from World War II as well? The food?
Oh, yeah, food was passed over from World War II, yeah. I believe you said something I didn't get.
Oh, it's all right. Tell me how you got your Purple Heart.
I think that was my second tour. I'm not sure. But I was in I think I was in the infantry. And on on a mission. I was getting shot at, and I laid down on the ground and got as low as I could. As you say, my belt buckle got in the way of me getting in deeper. But during the shot that was fired at me, one hit me just in front. I had my face in the ground. Round hit into just in front of my head, ricocheted into my skull, and left a pretty nasty looking, very bloody, but in retrospect, it was just a little wound, but it bled like a stuck hog. And where were we?
You were in the ground, correct?
But, oh yeah, I was, so it wasn't a very serious injury, but it was quite painful, and I bled. I learned there that when you get hit in the head, you bleed a lot more than you do if you get hit in the shoulder.
Now, were you conscious the entire time?
Yes,
How long did you have to wait for a medic?
not too long. Things were getting pretty well. This is my second tour. Things were getting pretty well organized then. We had plenty of medics, plenty of ambulances, and of course medics, above all medics, and most of them were very good by then. And I'm losing track. What?
And where did the medic take you?
Took me back to their aid station, cleaned, lubricated, bandaged me up, and sent me back to a field hospital. And by then I was feeling okay. Oh, you know, a little. But I stayed there a day or two, or three maybe, sent back to my unit.
How did it feel to be back with your unit after being in the hospital?
Oh, it was really welcome, but I missed that hospital food and beds.
Now, do you remember what you got the Presidential Unit Citation for? What your unit did?
The division had first contact with the North Koreans and stayed that way for several months. What was your question?
How you earned the Presidential Unit Citation?
Oh, but the division performed admirably during those early days, made some mistakes, made some moves that was not too honorable in my mind. Units pulled out really before they're supposed to, things like that. This was a bunch of young soldiers for the most part. A few leftover sergeants and lieutenants and captains from World War I, but not one. Yes, one. But it's mostly young soldiers, and none of us had ever seen combat before, really. And I'm losing track of what I'm saying.
No, it's fine. Is there any other parts about your time in Korea during the war that you still recall?
Well, let me get back. The 24th Division really got beat up bad in the war with the Koreans, North Korea. We were sent in first. A regiment made of mostly young soldiers, very inexperienced, no combat experience, except for a few leftovers from World War II. It was all young soldiers for the most part. And they took a terrific number of casualties. But for the most part, the Unions fought well. Always a few bug outs, but not too much in the 24th, not in the 21st Regiment.
Could you tell me about the Battlefield Commission?
Well, I started out as a squad leader, then we lost a master sergeant, platoon sergeant. Then we lost some of our lieutenants due to injuries, battle injuries, and they were replaced by, in most cases, by master sergeant. But we still had a few lieutenants. What was it? Repeat
the Battlefield Commission.
Oh, along as things progressed, a few NCOs were selected for Battlefield Commission. I was doing what I've been doing for a few months as a sergeant, master sergeant, and then gold bars on me, and things remained about the same as far as my duties and experiences. That was a Battlefield Commission, and they were handed out, not handed out, but they were selectively. I mean, a buck private out of basics wasn't known. You had to be a senior NCO with some experience.
Were you there for the Korean ceasefire? For the ceasefire? Were you present for that?
I think that was my second tour, I think. I had 2 tours. And I think the ceasefire happened in the second. I'm not sure of this.
It was in 53, correct?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. But if it was in 53, that was in the later months.
Well, do you remember the war coming to a halt?
To what?
To a halt? Do you remember it stopping?
I think I may have. I'm not sure. I'm guessing.
Oh, no, it's fine.
I may have served my tour in Korea when, what did you ask?
If you remember the end of the Korean War.
When the Korean War ended, I may have rotated back to the States by then. I can't remember. I believe it was 53. I can't remember.
You went back to the States? Or did you join the 14th Armored Cavalry Regiment?
That was later.
That was later?
Yeah. Restate the question.
Did you go back to the States after the Korean War?
Yes. I think I went back in '53. Was that when I got? Okay.
So when the war was over, you were back in the States, and is that where you married your wife?
I got out of the Army when I got back to the States. Been out a few months. I'd known my wife all my life. Lived in the same small town. Knew her and her family very well. And it was sometime after that we got serious. Honey, tell me if
You're right. You're doing good.
I'm out of gas. What else can I?
And what all did you do in the States?
I worked for her father, who was a Ford dealer. And then I decided I wanted to come back in the Army. So I asked to come back in. Surprising to me, they took me back. And then we picked up our married life and our civilian employments. Well, there was only one. I stayed in the reserve. I'd go from Davenport to Howland once a month and go to a major training post like Fort Stewart for 30 days.
Tell me how you ended up in Germany.
Well, there's some things in there we're skipping that I can't really put my hands on, fingers. How long did I stay out of the...
6 years. 6 years.
Oh,
And then we went to Germany.
Oh.
Went back.
okay. So I stayed in the reserve for 6 years, I guess. And then I was offered a chance to come back to active duty. I took it. And by then I had one wife and 2 children, right? And
you went to Fulda Gap? You went to Fulda Gap?
yeah,
And what did you do while you were in Germany?
I was assigned to a tank battalion,
The 14th Armored Cavalry?
14th Armored Cavalry, and stayed with them, I don't know, several months or years, and came back to the state.
And what city were you in? Was it called Fulda Gap?
Yeah, it was in the Fulda area. In fact, I think battalion headquarters was in it was in Fulda.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And did you see anything interesting in Fulda that you recall? Anything that happened in Germany that you still remember?
Can you think of anything?
Well, we lived in Bad Hersfeld. Maybe that brings back memories. You were troop commander in Bad Hersfeld.
Well,
Troop commander in Bad Hersfeld.
yeah, I was, Bully Gap was, yeah. Battalion headquarters was in Fulda. Company I was in was in Bad Hersfeld, about 20 miles away, on border duty. And that was mostly dull, but had some interesting moments. The matron of my regiment was to protect East and West Germany from the Soviets, who was just across this line. We were supposed to hold them off with 22 tanks of mine and a 105 artillery pieces. We were supposed to hold off a horde of Germans if the war broke out. Frankly, they didn't come across. We would have been wiped out.
Anything memorable ever happened with the Russians?
Well, this was the Russians that we were side by side with. No, we had a Russian officer we were side by side against the Russians on the line, and we had a Russian officer give up and come to us, didn't we? No, we had one that give up and join the Germans. I know, caused a big uproar in Washington on down. Nothing to it, really. But we routinely we'd have a alert every month, always at 2 o'clock in the morning, and roll us out of bed and roll us up to the main MLR, and let us go back to camp the next day. It was sort of dull, but I think we served a purpose. All that time our government was worried about Germany coming back against us.
Tell me about having to hold the Russians off for 16 hours.
My regiment in Germany of which my tank company was a part of, had the responsibility of holding the line between us for as long as we could. We called it when the fire broke out, and it was sort of a laughable situation. We had a tank company and a 105 artillery battalion on the main line of resistance against hordes of German armor, infantry, and everything else. We knew then and made fun of it that it was laughable for us to hold longer than maybe a few hours. But fortunately, it never happened. But we had some faults. Our high headquarters, I think, felt like they could hold for a while, but really, I question that judgment. It was too heavy, too one-sided. We couldn't have held maybe hours. I mean, a few hours. Is that about right, Roy?
For 16 hours.
Yeah, 16 hours. But some of our, people up below higher are just fool their own selves, really, as how long we could resist. It would have been hours, minutes.
Now, do you remember when you left Germany?
Yes.
When did you leave and where did you go?
Can you help, honey?
We left in 65 and went to school, and then Vietnam.
What?
65, you went to school at Fort Knox, and then Vietnam.
Oh, yeah.
Where did you go to school?
Fort Knox.
And what did you study at Fort Knox?
Just armor warfare. Infantry, armor.
Were you looking for more promotions?
Oh, this is after my football days. I got a football, but I made the football team back in Germany. And several years back.
And were you in advanced officer course?
Yes. Yeah.
And do you have any memories of that training that you still recall?
Well, it was basic infantry, armor infantry training for quite a while. You remember how long it was?
9 months.
9 months. The longest we had ever stayed in one place since we got married. It was just a very enjoyable change, being back in the States and talking to people I could understand and things like that.
But then you went to Vietnam shortly after that, is that correct?
After that,
Yeah.
after,
Yeah, you had
well,
you went to Fort Stewart for 3 months and back to Fort Knox, and then you went to Vietnam after that, yes.
okay.
So tell me about going to Vietnam and what you remember about that.
Well, we got assignments while we were still at Fort Knox, didn't we? And is headed out to I was headed out to California to ship out to Vietnam.
And where did you arrive when you got to Vietnam?
I just don't remember.
That's fine. What's the first thing you remember about Vietnam?
I'm not sure, but I think one of the things was, well, it's warm. Just as an aside, I've had my share of cold weather. Several pretty long tours of it. And I did welcome the climate when I got there. Then the climate wasn't too nice, but it beat being frozen to death.
Now, where do you remember serving? Were you at MACV? Were you at MACV while you were in Vietnam?
That was the big headquarters. I rolled through there, but I didn't stay long enough to do a little paperwork or something. Then I went out to my team.
And what team was that? Was it the 46th Regiment of the 25th Division?
I'm not sure. The team I went to, when I got to Vietnam, they gave me a little orientation and maybe a couple of weeks, a few days of acclimation, I guess you call it. Then they sent me out to my team. At that time, I was a major, and they used majors and lieutenant colonels on these various teams scattered over the country. And I had a team of about I think there was 16 of us, but I can't remember. Not too many. And we just tied in with a Vietnamese battalion or regiment, and we stayed with them most of the time, but a lot of times they had separation, and we did too. They just filled up the team to fit the mission. I just now remembered that. I think I had 16 in my basic team. And we were in I forget the name of the companies, their units, they I was the advisor to a regiment of Vietnamese. somebody that means now. And we each did our own thing. When something come up, they needed both of us, we'd respond. It was at that time, Vietnam was pretty active. I forget the name now of my little town we were headquartered in. It wasn't very large. We were several miles away from the almighty McPhee headquarters.
Do you remember ever having a meeting with General Abrams?
Yes.
Could you tell me about that?
General Abrams and I I'm thankful, sort of melded pretty well together. He was the best general I've ever seen or heard. No one close to him. He replaced the pipsqueak as far as I'm concerned. What was that did? Three changes of clothes a day. What was that general's name?
Westmoreland?
Huh?
Westmoreland?
I can't think of the little Chester's name. He was just a show man, really.
It was Westmoreland?
A show man. He was all for publicity, all for getting his picture in the paper, all for getting promoted. I can't think of it. I thought I'd never forget it. But he was not very well liked by the real soldiers. He was sort of he was all for show. He was all for dress. He wore fatigues like the rest of us. But he required 3 a day changes to meet his various responsibilities with the press, with VIPs, and all that. I can't. But it was welcome to all, most of us, for him to go and General Abrams come in. I can't think of common words anymore, but no more diverse examples of leaders. This other guy was not well respected in the ranks. Abrams was loved. He was loved by his soldiers from his days with Patton in World War II.
Abrams wrote down 3 words on a report about you. Could you tell me that story?
I had forgotten it. But he was a guy of few words, really. But, every efficiency report I ever got was had a couple of paragraphs, a few lines or something about things that was important and not important. But when he made out my efficiency report, when I left, or just before I left, Have we got it at home, honey? My fixing report.
Oh, I'm sure it's there
But
somewhere.
And what did it say?
what? It just said, he's a top-notch soldier, makes the correct decisions, blah, blah, blah. Just a few words. And then the last words he put in, a true combat soldier,
Warrior.
a true warrior, something like that. Three or four words, which was I took it as the greatest compliment I ever had. Do you know much about Abrams? He was our team commander, and he had already been selected as the next chief of staff, big chief of staff, Pentagon. We rotated about the same time. I went back to the States. He went to the Pentagon. And was being briefed to take over as the Joint Chief of Staff. That's four stars plus. And while he was being in his briefings, he had a physical schedule. Lasted about an hour. Outcome. Can't do anything about it, cancer. He never did take, I don't think he ever took the chair. They had to get somebody else, I forget who it was. When he came down to take over from this general, I don't think too highly of, as chief of our team. Well, no, it was more than a team, it was the whole, what did they call it, Roy? The four-letter word for the people in Vietnam.
Arvin?
Arvin. Well, that was a company, it was regiment. But the whole thing they called McVie, maybe? What was the big headquarters down?
Yeah, McVie.
McVie.
Yeah.
McVie, yeah. Well, it was. But when what's this guy that I didn't care for? You might remember his name? The general.
Westmoreland?
West,
Stillwell? Stillwell or Moreland?
anyway, the
Yeah.
guy, the 4-star, that my 4-star relieved, they had a little ceremony up at McVie headquarters. Attended only by Well, not everybody was invited. I think that was because of my buddy's request. No, please don't say anything about that. Because the other man's still living, I think. But at any rate, he got out of the helicopter. We all met him at the pad. He came in with a pair of coveralls, looked like he'd been in a week. And there was our commander standing there with starched fatigue he probably couldn't have bent over in, and boots, glossed, and and there come Abrams with his old fatigues on, and old tap, and had a pistol on, and that's the way he took change of command. You look at those two and see the difference in their appearance, and there was a sinking feeling you could feel going around. We got troubles compared to what we had.
We're coming up short on time. Is there any other story or closing statement that you'd like to add?
To add at that time in Vietnam, there was Night B, which was everybody's on the land, and then all the Navy and Air Force. As the Surface Admiral leading the Air Force, Navy, and all that. The headquarters were together. I've lost my train of thought. But this four-star admiral was, what's my man name? My general.
Your general? Zumwalt? Zumwalt?
What?
Admiral Zumwalt?
That was equal, really, on paper and planning, the same as my favorite general. And it so happened they were just alike and had never served together. But they were two peas in a pod, Roy. The four-star admiral and my four-star. And the resemblance couldn't help but be noted by all. They would, the admiral would come up and see the general ever so often, and he'd come down to my little headquarters and forget the name of the city, about 10 miles from, what was the main town in? They were about 10 or 15 miles apart. And they'd meet occasionally down in my place, which is about 5 miles, something like that. The admiral would come in, wearing clothes looked like he'd been in a week. May have a beard, at least one that needed shaving, but nobody's gonna tell it. And he'd come a spit and shine general, and our admiral would sit down like we 3 yards, he'd cross his leg. He said, now, you know what I want? And somebody would break out the, what's that French drink? Cognac. And they would share that cognac. My general would take down about that much. Mine would take several bells. And just as easy to talk to as we are. And I don't think anybody ever felt comfortable talking to the general. I don't know why I got off on that, and I wasted a lot of all y'all's time. Now continue where you were. You asked me a question.
I just asked if you had any closing statements. Anything else that you'd like to pass on to future generations?
Well, I was proud to serve my country for 20 some odd years. How many? 21?
21.
For 21 years. It was just an honor. I served with a great army, with great people. Don't say this, there's always few people that go to Canada, you know. But people I was with was top-notch people.
Well, it's been a real honor and a pleasure to get to speak to you today, sir. I'd like to thank you so much for taking the time, but more importantly, I'd like to thank you very much for your service.
What?
I'd like to thank you very much for your service.
Oh, my pleasure. And I mean that sincerely.